minutes of August the 9th, and all of these would be for adoption. Can they all be done at once, Mrs. Hilson? Okay, could I have? Thank you very much. That's Rhodes, Campbell, all in favor. Thank you. Business arising from prior minutes, there are none. And introduction of late items. We have two late items to be added to the agenda. One is a boat safety rental agreements that we want to talk about. That will be business 6. And the gyro opening, which was the grand opening, which was discussed this morning at our COW meeting, and that will be business 7. So could I please have the agenda adopted as presented with the additions? Thank you. That would be King Youngberg. All in favor? Thank you. So next is, we do not have any delegations, so now we have water matters. And it's the Water Districts 8 and 9 financial accounts, and the Water District cash requirements to August the 15th, 2016 are in the amount of $87,102.59, and the options are to approve or not approve.
I move.
Thank you. And could I have it seconded? Councillor Campbell is seconding that. All in favor? Thank you. And the next one, which is also a water matter, is a request to provide water service to Roberts Point, Osoyoos, and that will be Mr. Dinwiddie.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So as a bit of background, the Roberts Point subdivision is located beyond the current boundaries of the town of Osoyoos and just outside the borders of Irrigation District Number 8. As part of the Northwest Sewer Expansion Project in about the years 2009 to 2011, the town's sanitary sewer system was extended to the Roberts Point area. The homeowners at that time were given the opportunity to connect to the town's domestic water system for an additional fee, and the majority at that time did not express any interest in pursuing this option. As a bit of an overview, on November 2nd of 2015, the Operational Services Department of the town of Osoyoos received a letter from Mr. Mike Gregg inquiring about the possibility of having the town of Osoyoos install a water service for the residents of the subdivision known as Roberts Point. The Operational Services Department requested True Consulting to provide Mr. Gregg with a cost estimate of what such a project would cost, which they did in a letter dated December 15th of 2015. At that time, the estimated cost of this water installation was $274,000, which would be the responsibility of the residents of Roberts Point to pay as outlined in the town's extraterritorial service provision policy PW013. In the spring of 2016, the town of Osoyoos was successful in receiving a grant to twin the town's domestic water service into Irrigation Districts 8 and 9. The Roberts Point subdivision is located just outside the current boundaries of Irrigation District Number 8. As a result of the water twinning project, the water supply main which would be used to supply Roberts Point is now closer to the subdivision, therefore influencing the cost of providing this area with town of Osoyoos domestic water. The implications for the community are that there would be improved water quality for the residents of Roberts Point, which is currently beyond the boundaries of the town of Osoyoos. Organizationally, increased demand on the town of Osoyoos water resources from areas which are not within the town's boundary, and there is a need to have an irrigation district boundary expansion or a service agreement with the RDOS. Budget, possible increase in future budget requirements to maintain the town of Osoyoos water systems, although the cost to install town of Osoyoos domestic water to Roberts Point subdivision will have to be borne by the individual residents of this area. Significant dates, the project twinning the town's domestic water service into Irrigation District Number 8 is scheduled to begin in the autumn of this year of 2016. Therefore, True Consulting will need to know as soon as possible if the tender quantities for this project require adjusting to accommodate supplying water to the Roberts Point subdivision. Sustainability, there could possibly be increased demand to continue to maintain the town of Osoyoos' water systems. The options for council are, number 1, Council authorizes the Operational Services Department to commission True Consulting at Roberts Point subdivision cost to create a cost estimate for providing the Roberts Point subdivision with town of Osoyoos domestic water. Council does not authorize the Operational Services Department to commission True Consulting to create a cost estimate for providing the Roberts Point subdivision with town of Osoyoos domestic water. Or option number 3 is that Council requests additional information prior to making a decision. The administration recommends that Council adopt option number 1.
Thank you very much. I was looking at the map here, and I thought the map, the green part was going to be done first, and the purple part was the next phase. No? Am I incorrect in that?
No, I think the green part is
There.
supposed to be first.
Yes, there it is there. So my assumption is that the Roberts Point one is in that part, and so would it be done when the rest of them in the purple part are done?
Actually, no,
Is
I
that-
think we're going to do the purple part first.
Oh.
And then the green part.
Oh, all right.
So it was purple
Okay.
first and then green. Like I said, this and this little subdivision over here, that's called Incomeet Point.
Yes.
Similar situation as Robert Point. They fall just outside of the irrigation district. These people will probably ask once these people get an answer.
So we could be dealing with both of them.
You could.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not
Okay.
inconceivable.
Thank you. Council, any questions? Yes.
Would we be waiting until the twinning happens, or would they want domestic water now?
Well, if we wanted, what we would do is we try to include it in the first part of phase one of the twinning project. And so the reason we want to know now whether we should ask for a cost estimate is because they could increase the quantity of pipe that we need to buy. So if we're actually going to run the pipe out to Roberts Point, we could buy it now. When you buy in bulk, you tend to get a cheaper price. I'm sure the Roberts Point people would be happy if the sooner rather than later that they were to get water service. A lot of the residents out there are telling me that their wells are starting to fail, and they're now at a point where they either have to redig the well, and some of them are having difficulty with that. One gentleman has tried twice, I believe, and the well has failed both times to get water. So they're looking at the only way to get water is then to suck it out of the lake and treat it personally in some way, shape, or form. So that's fairly expensive, so they want to know, if they're going to get domestic water, they don't need to do that. So.
No, that was my question. Are we going to give them water
Right away?
right away and then twin it later? That's my question.
We would twin it first and then give them water whenever we get around to doing the green section. So we'll do the purple first, and then the plan was to go do System 9 next year, and then this the year after that. So we would probably do Roberts Point this year because that's where we're doing the work.
How do we wind up in the middle for twinning?
The purple section, you mean?
Yes.
Is that, yeah.
Because that's where most of I believe that's where most of the residents live. So we picked the area that has the most number of connections.
Oh.
I think it's the purple area, but they have the most number of homes that are
I thought it
elected.
was the green. But
I could be wrong.
I thought so too,
Yeah.
but according to the map that we have here, it says that that the fall of 2016 is the purple section.
Yeah, and
So-
the purple section was chosen because it has the most number of domestic connections, so
Sure.
we would be helping out the most number of people.
yeah,
Okay.
no, that's fine.
Councillor Rhodes.
Thank you, Mayor McCordoff. I'd like to step in and make a motion based on the staff recommendation and the wording in option number 1.
Okay, do we have a seconder
I'll
for that?
second
Thank
that.
you. Now, you'd like to speak to that, for sure.
I feel that it's important to move forward with the request that you've made. I would like to emphasize the point that this is not about supplying the water. This is about getting a cost to do
Yes.
that. And I think that may have, some impact on our decision-making process, but I certainly think it's a logical next step for us. And
Yeah, this is just asking True Consulting to
Yeah.
provide us with a more detailed estimate. They have given us a ballpark estimate as to how much cheaper it would be now that the twinning is going to happen, and the price dropped from $274 to $194.
Yeah, I think it's important for us to know that number, and then we can move forward. In the interim, it would be nice in a future report to see what the impact would be to our water system in the community. It definitely will, draw water out of our supply, and if there's some way of determining whether that's going to be a neutral thing or whether it'll have some negative impact to us. And just out of curiosity, I'd like to ask, Roberts Point has been a subdivision that's been, in the development phase for quite a while. One of the first things that you do is you look after infrastructure, sewer and water and power and all that kind of stuff. What happened to that planning for water supply? I mean, they couldn't
As I
possibly have-
understand it, when we went through with the Northwest Sewer expansion in somewhere around 2009 to 2011, at that time they asked the residents there, well, we're digging a trench to give you a sewer line. Do you want us to dig another one to give you a water line? And the vast majority of the people said no. They were not interested at all. All their wells were working at the time, because it would cost them extra money, of course, to put in the water service, and they just didn't feel it was necessary to spend the money at that time.
So now they have to pay for it.
If they would
Probably
like
more,
it, they will
yeah.
have to pay, yeah.
Okay. Is there, Mr. Emanko, did you have anything to say? Okay. So, no other questions? All right. So the motion on the floor is to accept option number 1 to commission True Consulting to do a cost estimate. All in favor? Thank you very much. Yes, go ahead.
I'd like to offer an apology. I'm not sure whether it was my choice to make the option. I'd forgotten that it was a water matter, and perhaps we should have waited for the councillors. I didn't mean to
No.
step in anybody's.
But you
Yeah.
voted on this.
Yeah, I voted no.
Too bad, we outvoted you. Oh, okay, well, could you make sure that we will make sure that you get information about this,
Yes,
for sure.
please.
Yeah, because this is in your area, for sure. Okay, next on our agenda is a letter of support from the Lake Osoyoos Sailing Club. I'm not exactly sure what this means. And Mr. Manko, do you know why they need a support to have a 55-plus sailing team? How does that have anything to do with the town?
Well, they're just looking for, it's got nothing to do with the town directly. I think they're just looking for a letter of support. Maybe they're doing an application of some sort. Do you know?
It might have something to do with their insurance, too. Just with the different events, whatever that they host, they might have a number of different things in there, but it didn't say that.
All we have is this letter, and so I'm not quite sure how we...
And I wasn't here when it arrived, so
and they needed it by July the 26th, according to the bottom of the letter, which we couldn't do. Could we find out a little bit more information about this first, about why they needed it, and what was the reason it was put on here? Or do you think that there's enough there?
Sometimes, too, they might just need to get the approval from the provincial association.
And they
if
need a
it's
letter
a
of
sanctioned
support from
event or
us?
something, possibly, yeah. But again, I'm not sure.
So how should we deal with this? Give a letter of support from the town, or wait for more information?
Well, seeing how this is time sensitive, maybe I'd suggest a motion. I can't see how it would be any harm providing a letter of support for an endeavor of this sort.
Okay.
And then provide me with the authority to issue the letter if it's in the best interest of the community.
Right.
I'd make that motion to support
Okay.
letter.
Yeah.
Everybody else okay with that? Okay, all in favor? Thank you. Whatever you said, that's what we'll put in the motion. Right, Brianne? You got that? Yes. Okay. Next is a letter from, now I can speak to this one. This is a letter of support that the mayor of Rossland is asking for. And the Highway 3 Coalition is a group of mayors from Hope to the Alberta border. And there's a subcommittee, a tourism subcommittee of that, and there are 6 mayors on that one, and I am one of them. So, and Kathy Moore, the mayor of Rossland, is the chair of that. So what we're looking at is, and it's listed here, a letter of support to provide a strategy for the entire route that will drive more traffic to our area, making this a viable route, a safe route, an interesting route, lots of different ecosystems. And the other part of it is that we want to provide electric charging stations along the way, and make sure that those are well noted. So in order to do that, we need to implement this strategy and hire a consultant to help us once we get all the information together. That was going to cost about $55,000, and when we looked at that, there were some ways to find money from various places. So one of them was from CIDIT, Southern Interior CIDIT, something Initiative Trust. I don't know what the D stands for. I'll have to think about it. Anyway, there's also some other things that that we were looking at: the Rural Dividend Fund, the Community Energy Association, and apparently CBT, which I'm assuming is the Columbia Basin Trust, has also offered some money to do this. So what I would, we are meeting with the ministers at UBCM, and it's partly because of this Highway 3 coalition. The mayors, which have only been on for a year, has they have really pushed the government to look at making this a much safer route. So a lot of the upgrades on the whole Princeton were, I mean, they would have been done anyway probably, but I think it was kind of a push from the Highway 3 mayors, which has been in operation for about 10 years, I think. So what do you think that a letter or a resolution, what would work best? Because they say they offer either one. Mr. Manco.
I think just a resolution that a letter be written in support of a letter of support from the town of Osoyoos to the coalition for their endeavors to develop this strategy.
Okay. Okay. Would you make that? Moved and seconded. Rhodes Campbell. All in favor? Thank you very much. Next is Recreational Services Fees and Charges Amendment Bylaw. Mr. Davis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Bylaw 1180, Recreation Services Fees and Charges, needs to be updated. This bylaw was brought forward for the first 3 readings on July 17th. However, it cannot be adopted as the current name cannot be changed unless the bylaw was given a new number. Therefore, we will need to bring the changes forward at this time. The recommended changes and additions are as follows. Administrative fee for subsidy policy, a charge of $100 for family and $50 for an individual. Damage deposit for equipment and facility needs in the range of $200 to $500. Zero charge for after-hours access, and adding the grandstands at Desert Park with the rental of the infield. The administrative fee for subsidy policy was approved by Council, and it referred to an administrative fee, but no fee was identified. Staff is recommending that a $100 family fee and a $50 individual fee would be appropriate to give the service more value. The actual savings is significant if a family or individual was approved by the subsidy. A family of 4 or 2 adults and 2 children could utilize 50 drop-ins each for activities, including the weight room, 20 parent and taught drop-ins, and a 75% reduction in select programs. Activity drop-ins for adults are at $4 each, parent and taught are $3, and a 75% reduction for the Cactus Kids Camp for the summer equates to significant savings. The damage deposit for equipment and facility needs. On occasion, we receive requests to supply tables and chairs, audio equipment, projector for large events. The fee is paid according to the current bylaw, but we do not charge any type of damage deposit for these specific items. If the equipment is returned damaged, we do not have anything to compensate for the damages. If we have a damage deposit that is flexible, we can charge different amounts for the type and amount of equipment that is needed. In terms of the after-hours access, the after-hours access pass has been changed so that annual pass holders can receive early morning access at no cost, but they have to register for the service. In the past, our access to the weight room included late night use, and there was an extra annual charge of $50. At this time, the early morning access is Monday to Friday only, and the weight room opens at 6 a.m. We currently have approximately 100 access users, but we are expecting this to drop when the new gyms open. In terms of the grandstands at Desert Park, this request was discussed at our Community Services Advisory Committee meeting. If someone wanted to rent the grandstands for an event, there is no associated fee. If they rented the entire facility and grounds, there is a cost but it might be more than what is needed. In the future, there will be groups who want to rent the grandstands and use the infield. The best case scenario would be to add the grandstands to the current infield charge, as they would be used together if events are planned. In terms of implications for the community, streamlining the fees and charges bylaw will make it easier for the community to access recreational opportunities in an affordable manner. Organizational, updating the fees and charges bylaw in the class system. Significant dates, we'd like to do this as soon as possible. And in terms of sustainability, assisting community members to sustain an active lifestyle at an affordable means. The options before council: for council to rescind the third reading of the Community Services Fees and Charges Amendment Bylaw 1180-10-216, and that the Recreation Fees and Charges Amendment Bylaw 1180-10-216 be read a first, second, and third time. Option number 2, for council to send Amendment Bylaw 1180-10-216 back to staff for further review. Or option number 3, for council to abandon Amendment Bylaw number 1180-10-216. And staff is recommending option number 1. Council may wish to proceed by directing staff to make minor changes to the amendment bylaw, such as having only one fee for the subsidy policy, or not including the other proposed additions. The administrative fee is meant to provide more value, and there are numerous avenues to assist low-income users to pay for this service, such as the Spirit of the Games and Jumpstart.
Thank you very much. So this is similar to the report you brought at the last meeting. Basically, what we're doing is just changing the name.
Yes.
So what we need to do is, are you going to make that motion?
Yeah, because I think we've discussed this in detail already. So I would move for council to rescind the 3 readings of Community Service Fees and Charges Amendment Bylaw 1180-10-2016, and the Recreation Fees and Charges Amendment Bylaw number 1180-10-2016 be read a first, second, and third time.
Thank you. Seconding that. Any other concerns about this? Thank you. So all in favor? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Council Indemnity Bylaw. Mr. Zackel.
Thank you, Mayor McCordoff. So at the July 18th, 2016 meeting, Council directed staff to prepare an amendment to the Council Indemnity Bylaw, increasing the remuneration for the mayor by 15% and the councillors by 5%. It has been 10 years since the Council Indemnity Bylaw 1221 was adopted by Council. This increase to Council's remuneration would amount to an overall increase of $7,030.38, allocated against the following funds: the General Fund, $3,011.14, Sewer Fund, $1,672.86, Water Fund, $1,338.28, Water District Fund of $1,008.10. The new rate established for the mayor is $27,142.94. This is comparable to the Oliver's mayor, which is $26,792.21. The council of $16,543.04. Water Council, $4,610.04. Under implications for community, there is none. Organizationally, no changes are required organizationally. Budget, a slight increase in expenses. Budget impact is minimal. Significant dates, bylaw would need to be adopted before rates become effective. Sustainability, none. Options before council, for council to give first 3 readings to Council Indemnity Bylaw 1323-2016. Option 2, for council to make amendments to Council Indemnity Bylaw 1323-2016 and give first 3 readings. And option number 3, for council to rescind the resolution to increase council's remuneration. So the recommendation before council is option number 1. This bylaw had an amendment in 2011 to add a charge to council attending part-day out-of-town meetings, but since then there's been no other changes.
Thank you very much. Council? Councillor Rhodes?
Thank you, Mayor McCordoff. I'll move option number 1 for council to give the first 3 readings to Council Indemnity Bylaw 1323, 2016.
And Councillor Campbell has seconded that motion. Did anyone want to speak to this motion? I think it was discussed at a last meeting, and it's been several years since anything has been done. I should say that we did look at what mayors and councils were provided on an annual basis with about 8 or 9 different communities the last time, and definitely the mayor was mayor's salary or remuneration was quite a ways down there, and so it was just sort of bringing it up to be in line with several other of the communities of our size. Councillor Campbell.
Thank you, Mayor McCord. I think that was part of the reason. I think the other part of the reason and the difference in percentages of increase, just to explain to the public, was when we look at salaries of mayors specifically, in the grand scheme of things, it almost seems like a part-time salary, whereas looking at the amount of time and the amount of dedication to all aspects of the community that the mayor of Osoyoos shows, treating it really as a full-time and then some position, that this decision was more than justified.
Thank you. Okay, the motion is on the floor. Option 1. All in favor of the motion? Thank you very much. Next is the zoning amendment bylaw, report 3, and our senior planner, Dillis Wong. If I got that right?
Yes.
Wong, okay.
All right, thank you. So the purpose of this report is to request that Council adopts the attached zoning amendment bylaw number 1085.100/2016, which includes adding the following site-specific permitted uses for the airport industrial property legally described as Lot 2, Plan KAP 89085, DL2450S, SDYD. Indoor automotive storage, repair and restoration, and sales, and caretaker suites with a maximum floor area of 100 square meters. These amendments were initiated after the town received an offer to purchase subject to the approval of the site-specific permitted uses. Overview. Council gave first and second readings to the bylaw on July 18th, 2016, and then proceeded to a public hearing on August the 9th. 5 members of the public were present and 1 person spoke at the meeting. Staff also received a written submission in support of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment. It is anticipated that a copy of the minutes has been made available to Council earlier today. And a special open meeting immediately followed the public hearing on the same day, during which Council gave third reading to the bylaw. And implications to the community include the proposed development would allow the prospective purchaser to relocate an existing business and expand its operations within the community. Organizationally, the sale of the subject property is conditional upon the approval of the site-specific zoning bylaw amendment. Since the property is located within 800 meters of a provincial controlled access highway, final approval from the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure is required prior to the adoption of the bylaw. And final MOTI approval was granted on August the 12th. If the bylaw is adopted, Planning and Development Services will work with the future applicant, who is the current prospective purchaser, on the development permits and building permit processes. Budget. The town is acting as the applicant for the zoning bylaw amendment. However, it will receive the proceeds of sale of the subject property once the transaction is closed following the approval of the bylaw. In terms of significant dates, the prospective purchaser noted that he wishes to start construction in the fall and would like to occupy the premises by next spring. And lastly, sustainability. The proposed development would contribute to economic sustainability by diversifying the uses at the Osoyoos Airport Industrial Subdivision lands. And the 2 options before Council are option number 1, Council adopts zoning amendment bylaw number 1085.100 to 2016, or option number 2, Council does not adopt the amendment bylaw. And staff recommends option number 1.
Thank you very much. At the meeting that we had after the public hearing, we looked at whether we could, in fact, adopt the bylaw at the same time as giving third reading, and it was suggested that we needed to get a written permission from MOTI first, and we now have that?
Yes, we have this. They have signed the bylaw.
Good. Thank you very much. Yes, Councillor Youngberg.
Thank you, Mayor McCordoff. I'd like to make the motion council adopt zoning amendment bylaw number 1085-100, 2016.
Thank you. And Councillor Rhodes seconding that. Anyone else need to speak on? Did you go ahead? Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, I didn't. Sorry,
Yes, just
didn't realize you. Yeah.
I'd just like to commend planning and everybody else that has had some input in trying to get this proposal together. I think it's a great asset to our community, and I also think by encouraging industrial development at the airport, it's going to really encourage the continuing plans that we come up with the airport lands.
Thank you very much. Councillor Rhodes.
Thank you, Mayor McCordoff. One of the things that is often never mentioned through these processes and that kind of thing is the opportunity for employment in our community, and this definitely has that component attached to it. I don't remember exactly the numbers, they're not big. And one of the other things that I heard is, besides new jobs, was I've already hired the people and they're moving to our community and they have young children. And that really, had a real positive impact on me at the time, because those young children are going to go through the school system here, through elementary, and eventually hopefully end up in our high school, which we will have here at that time, hopefully. And I just wanted to mention that, because so often development and the things that go through are always about the economics in our community and all of the other things, how they're going to benefit. But in this particular case, it's worthwhile mentioning that there are new jobs and there are young families moving into our community as a result of it.
Thank you very much. Good points. Okay, we have a mover and a seconder for option number 1. All in favor? Thank you very much. We will now move on to business 1, and it is a report from the mayor. So could somebody... I went to a Highway 3 Coalition meeting. That's what I'm requesting the payment of $100 for being away for a whole day. Thank you. No? You're going to turn it down? That was. Could we have it moved and seconded first? Yes. Moved, seconded. Thank you. Did you have a question, Councillor Youngberg? Oh, okay. Okay, all in favor? Thank you very much.
But I just wanted to add that it's really good time spent, that Highway 3 Coalition.
Yes.
Very important.
It is, and this is the second one I've been to this summer, and we will be meeting again at UBCM. Mm-hmm. So next is the Ms. Van Vienen, you're back. Bylaw Enforcement Addendum Agreement.
Thank you. The town entered into an agreement for bylaw enforcement services for a 5-year term beginning January 1st, 2016. The original agreement did not discuss the contractor's obligations under the BC Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. The attached addendum sets out when the contractor can collect personal information, the custody and control of that information, how the information should be shared, protected, stored, and retained, and finally how it can be used and disclosed. The town does have a third-party information sharing agreement with DELO Enforcement Services for the purposes of sharing information obtained from ICBC. However, that agreement does not cover other information that may be obtained for purposes of non-traffic infractions. For the implications, there's none to the community. Organizationally, monitoring of the contract, there are no budget implications, no significant dates. And for sustainability, ensuring that the municipality is following the FOI legislation with regard to the collection, use, and retention of personal information. So the options are, 1, that the addendum agreement with DELO Enforcement Services outlining the FOI obligations be approved and that the signatories for the town be authorized to sign. 2, that the addendum agreement with DELO Enforcement Services outlining the FOI obligations be returned to staff for further review. Or 3, that the town not enter into an addendum agreement with DELO Enforcement Services. Staff recommendation is option 1, to ensure that the contractor fully understands the obligations under the FOI Act.
Thank you very much. Council, anybody like to? Councillor Rhodes?
Thank you, Mayor McCordoff. I'll move the staff recommendation in option 1.
Thank you.
With the wording that you used there.
Councillor King seconded the motion. This is just a housekeeping issue. Freedom of information is a huge issue that we have to make sure that we're all up to date on, and that's why it's come to our attention. All in favor of this? Thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Van Vienen, and I think you're up next.
Thank you. So over the past several years, the town has paid for staff to be members in various organizations. These organizations provide staff with up-to-date changes relative to their positions, as well as provide education and support. The original policy, which is attached and noted original, has been in place since 1996. It has been changed several times, and the last change being made on November 7th, 2005. After reviewing it, several changes were needed. Since staff changes result in changes to the memberships to the various organizations, it is being proposed that the policy be amended as attached, noted as proposed new. The amended policy gives the authority to the CAO to allow for staff membership fees to be paid, with the CAO's membership to be approved by the mayor. However, the council memberships to the UBCM and SILGA will remain in the policy as approved. For implications, there's none to the community. Organizationally, staff and council memberships allow them opportunity for networking, learning, and keeping up with current changes. The budget dependent on the membership fees from year to year, and sustainability, keeping staff and council current on issues. So the options are 1, that policy HR 004 association memberships be approved as amended, or 2, that it be sent back to staff for further changes, or 3, that it not be approved, and staff recommend option 1. And as council will note, that on the first one, the original policy, it listed every association and who was a member. It has now been simplified in the new and approved policy.
Good. Thank you very much. I think it's very important that that staff have the ability to go and have update in courses, just very much like council goes to SILGA and UBCM to be more current on all of the issues and network with others. So I think this is a good plan. Are you making that motion?
I'll move option number 1.
Thank you. And Councillor Rhodes seconding that. All in favor? Thank you very much. And the next one is Ms. Van Vienen again. This is on town vehicle use, business and personal.
Thank you. The town currently has a policy setting out guidelines for the use of town vehicles. The existing policy does not cover the need for the driving record for those driving town vehicles, and therefore needs to be amended. Even though it is not currently in the policy, town staff that drive town vehicles have been required to provide a copy of their driver's license and sign a permission form in order that a driver's abstract could be obtained. ICBC has recently changed the way they provide this information, and employees can now obtain their own driving record and forward to the town for their file. The proposed amendment to this policy addresses how employees can obtain their driving record, who receives a copy of it, and how it must be obtained. It also sets out the processes and requirements if someone loses their license or their license expires. The proposed amendment also clarifies to all staff how often the driving records are to be updated in their personnel files, and puts the onus on the employee to advise their supervisor of a driving suspension, and also sets out the ramifications for driving a town vehicle without a valid license, including removing the liability from the town and putting it on the employee. There are no community implications, no organizational ones. There are no budget impacts or significant dates. Under sustainability, it ensures all town vehicles are being driven by qualified drivers for the type of vehicle. Options: that the amendment to policy HR 015, town vehicle use, business and personal, be approved as presented, or that it be sent back to staff for further changes, or 3, that it be not amended, and staff recommend option 1. And then it was highlighted in the policy, everything highlighted in the yellow is the additions that were put into the current policy.
Thank you. You mentioned that it's the liabilities being put on the town employee. I'm assuming that goes for council as well. If we drive one of the cars, we would be under the same situation. Is that correct?
That's right. Actually, what it is if you were to drive it with a suspended license, or you were driving a vehicle which you were not licensed to be able to drive, like you didn't have your class, I don't know what
like
it is.
Like the beach cleaner? I couldn't drive that, I'm assuming.
Or the bus or something like that.
It's not a motor vehicle.
It's not a motor vehicle? It has an engine in it?
No wheels.
Well, it's got
Thanks for pointing that
something.
at you.
Something. Oh, that's where the wheels went.
I was just defending myself there.
It's anybody who drives a town vehicle for whatever reason. Like if we take one in the parade or something, we need to go through the same.
Actually, the liability portion of this is more or less if your license was suspended and you drove anyways, and then you were in an accident and you weren't properly licensed to drive that vehicle, that should then be on the employee who didn't notify their supervisor that they could not drive that vehicle.
Okay.
Right.
Or member of council that did that.
Pardon me?
Or a member of council that did
Yes,
that.
well, I totally agree. It just said employees, and I don't think we're considered employees.
No.
But
You wouldn't want somebody not qualified to drive the backhoe driving
absolutely,
the backhoe.
I
that sort of
totally
thing,
agree.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madam
Councillor
Mayor.
King.
I guess you mentioned about getting a 10-year history from ICBC. Is that the standard submission is 10 years?
Yes, they go 5, 10, 15, 20, I believe, and at least a 10-year gives you kind of an idea of what their background is. And then after that, they could just give us a 5-year.
Okay, so is it free up to 10 years?
It's
Okay.
it's just a free
I didn't
service
think they
that
went back that
ICBC.
far.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, Councillor Rhodes. I mean, whatever.
Whatever.
Councillor Campbell.
We'll move option number 1.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. Councillor Rhodes, are you seconding that? All in favor? Thank you very much. Okay. Well, they're all councillors. I don't know why I have to worry about their names.
I think there's only one mayor, right?
Listen, I've been called other things other than Mayor McCordoff.
You and I both.
Okay,
yes, you
next
did.
is Mr. Dinwoody. Approve and award landfill Stage 2 final cover excavation and stockpiling contract.
Thank you,
Sounds
Madam.
complicated.
It does, doesn't it? It's actually not that complicated, but thank you, Madam Mayor. As background, as part of the 2016 capital budget process, Town Council approved the allocation of funds to accommodate the excavation and stockpile of silt materials at the Town of Osoyoos sanitary landfill, approximately 5,000 cubic meters. This excavated silt material will ultimately be utilized for a final cover of the landfill facility when it is eventually decommissioned. The excavation of the silt material will also produce additional airspace, which can then be used to increase the landfill's existing capacity. The Operational Services Department hired True Consulting to create and tender a contract for the excavation and stockpiling of silt materials at the Town of Osoyoos sanitary landfill on July 22nd, 2016. The tenders for this project closed at 2 p.m. Tuesday, August 9th, and the resulting bids have been checked for accuracy and evaluated by True Consulting. The bids which were submitted for this project are listed below, and they include all taxes. So Trihan Enterprises Limited had a bid of $37,800 even. OK Excavating, which is a division of Greenleaf Enterprises Limited, had a bid of $37,852.50. Nitrous Contracting Limited had a bid of $45,727.50. Superior Excavating a bid of $67,200 even, and Grizzly Excavating Limited a bid of $72,450. True Consulting recommends that the tender as submitted by Trihan Enterprises Limited in the amount of $37,800 be accepted. True Consulting also requests authorization to extend the contract from 5,000 cubic meters to 6,000 cubic meters based on the tendered price of $6.41 a cubic meter. It should be noted that even with this quantity extension, the total contract value will still fall well within the original contract budget amount. Implications for the community is the continued efficient operation of the Town of Osoyoos sanitary landfill today, with provision for the facility's ultimate closing in the future. Organizationally, the Town of Osoyoos will stockpile material which will be used for the final cover of the sanitary landfill, eliminating the need to acquire the more expensive geomembrane liner system. Budget-wise, the bid submitted by Trihan Enterprises Limited is $12,200, or 24.4% under the capital budget allocated for this project. Significant dates. In order for the successful contractor to begin work on this project during favorable weather conditions, it is recommended that the contract be awarded as soon as possible. And sustainability. The increase in airspace at the town of Osoyoos sanitary landfill will ultimately extend the life cycle of this facility. The options for council are option number 1, that council approve awarding the contract for landfill stage 2 final cover excavation and stockpile to Trihan Enterprises Limited. Option number 2 is that council does not approve awarding the contract for landfill stage 2 final cover excavation and stockpile to Trihan Enterprises Limited. Option number 3 is that council requests additional information prior to making a decision. The recommendation of staff and administration is for council to approve option number 1.
Thank you very much. My assumption is that they're going to use equipment, dig holes out at the landfill site now.
Yes.
And just what have they been doing in the past when things have they been stockpiling that as well over the last many years?
We do this quite often.
Yes.
Okay.
We anticipate ultimately what we will need to cover when the landfill is finally finished and we're going to decommission it, we'll need upwards of 25,000 cubic meters of fill to cover it so that it goes back to a natural state sort of thing. So we were doing this like 5,000 to 6,000 cubic meters a year.
Okay, good. Thank you. Councillor. Oh, Councillor. Mr.
Could I just speak to the options? One
Yes.
of the options that outline don't acknowledge the request for an additional 1,000 cubic meters as recommended.
No, it does not.
So if council is going to approve the tender, could we just have a tender approval and then also with a subject to an additional 1,000 cubic meters if we can negotiate that at that rate? Is that, yeah.
So
$6.40 a cubic meter is the current rate.
Okay, Councillor King.
That was actually really my question. By expanding it the extra 1,000 square meters, and you got two people here within $52 of each other, is it really fair to the other company?
We don't have to expand it by the 1,000 cubic meters. I don't know if the other company would go lower than what they've currently bid.
I have no idea either, but I
Yeah.
mean, I've never seen it such a close.
Yeah.
It was very
set
close.
bid.
It was a penny
$52.
separated them in the per cubic meter price.
Right.
well, we're accepting the tender.
I got
And
no
then,
problem accepting the tender.
then we're going to see if we can get more work done at that price.
Okay.
Would-
So
But it sounds like you're willing to spend more because it's within budget.
It's
Yeah.
it's under what we
That doesn't
predicted
say
it
you're
would be.
going to do the work or the same price per cube.
Well,
Not
that
for
we
the
have to
quoted
talk to them.
price of
We'd have to ask
37.
them.
We'd have to ask them.
So
Yeah.
how would you like us to deal with this? Do the, accept that or make a motion depend, on the budget that's, or on the motion that's there? Or, and then do a second motion to, how would you like to
Maybe
deal with it?
Councillor Rhodes has got a
Councillor
solution.
Rhodes, have you gotten a good idea?
Well, so when I was kind of going over this report, that's exactly what came to mind for me as well. Two things came to mind. Number one was our commitment to accept the lowest bidder, and I've always been, very much shop local, do what we can in that area, and I would be encouraged to probably not support the
Trihan Enterprises.
enterprise recommendation based on that, even though the difference between Chilliwack and Kelowna is minimal, but Kelowna is, more regionally
Local.
local than the other one. But when you factor that other $12,000 figure in there, that estimate, it does push it even closer to, and I have no idea, like you, whether nitrous or any of the other ones would adjust their cost or anything like that. And I understand the cubic meter breakdown and everything, but you don't really know. And if you take this and retender it out again based on that, then you let the cat out of the bag, so to speak, about what the numbers are and everything after the fact. And I don't know whether that's fair or not. It's kind of
iffy.
It's kind of iffy at this point. And I should also mention that we've been faced with this challenge in one other situation that we had with some work that we did on 62nd Avenue going up towards the high school there, where for one reason or another, we didn't accept the tender. I can't remember what the reasons. And then all of those costs were put out to the public. The end result was pretty favorable. We did get that job in under budget, or I think that's what the problem was, is it came in over budget, slightly over budget. And
Yeah.
so this is a tough call because it does, bring the people that have quoted on this a little bit closer when you factor that in. But I don't know what to do.
Yeah, I'm confused too.
How can we retender when it's now public what the...
Well, we're not asking to retender.
Okay. No.
No. Well,
We're just asking
So
to-
legally, we need to accept this because it was the lowest bid.
Legally,
Yeah.
you need to accept the lowest bid unless you have some
Compelling
reason
reason,
not to.
Yeah.
And shop local is not a reason.
Yeah.
Not
True,
that
True
was my
Consulting
first
has
thought, too.
worked with Trihan in the past, and True Consulting
Yes.
has said that they do fine work. They have had no
Yeah.
issues with them in the past.
It just so happens that this company from Chilliwack has got a job in the Kootenays,
And their
And-
equipment is passing through, essentially.
equipment's passing through.
On Wednesday, actually, their equipment will be passing through. So, that's
So
why.
how do we deal with the extra, can we talk to them quickly
Well,
while
this
they're
was
coming?
just
or-
True's recommendation that we ask to see
Yeah.
if we can get an extra 1,000 cubic meters. We don't have to do that. We can
Oh,
just
I
say
see.
it's 5,000 cubic meters, period.
So, in other words, we ask, and if they can do it, we say yes, but it has to be at the same price.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Same
So
price, you mean on top of this, like adding another $6,000?
Well,
Essentially, yeah, you'd add
Yeah.
$640 per cubic meter.
$6,400.
Well, yeah, 640,
So,
5,400.
I would suggest that
We just
council
accept the lowest bid.
accept the lowest bid and then provide us with an additional resolution to
ask.
seek out an additional 1,000 cubic meters at the same price,
Okay.
if council so wishes.
Thank
But
you.
we don't have to.
But you don't have to.
Councillor Rhodes?
So I've asked this question 100 times. I know it's rhetorical and I know the answer. Is there no tolerance for accepting something other than the lowest bid? We are
Well-
so close. I can recognize the benefit to our community quite easily in my mind. Can you explain the legality of it to me once again?
Well, the legality is that you tender out and that unless you have some real evidence, and in my tenure here, we only had one contract that we turned down the lowest bid, and that's because we had history with that particular contractor of non-performance. So that's why we did not accept the lowest bid. And they were prepared to seek legal action, but then they did not. So
Yeah.
that's,
That could be a factor.
unless you have some evidence that illustrates why we should not support the lowest bid. In this case, these individuals coming through town will be staying in town, living in town for X number of days while they complete this job. I don't know what the Kelowna operation would do.
No, thank you. Yes.
Thanks, Mayor McCordoff. I just have one concern, and that's that the actual bid was changed after everyone put their bid in.
What-
So they were asked
No.
to
What bid- what-
extend the contract. True Consulting has
No,
requested.
that's
No.
True Consulting has asked us. They wanted permission to ask the contractor, would you give us an extra 1,000 cubic meters at this price?
This is
The
after.
contractor hasn't been asked this at all
No.
yet.
Right, I understand that. But actually, the submission has been changed. So you're going back to Trian Enterprises to ask them if they can extend their contract from 5 to 6. The other bidders, if they had known there was 6,000 square meters to actually work with, their bid might have been changed,
Maybe.
right? So that's the only area that I think should
Yeah.
be considered.
Okay, well, like I said, we don't have to ask for the extra 1,000.
Right. And
You're right. So because it's so close.
it is.
It's very
However,
close.
we are required to, legally, otherwise we could have a court case due to it. So I think we need to legally do that. We will then ask If they can do the other 1,000. If they can't, and it's an outrageous price, then we don't do it. That's what.
Well,
Yeah.
there's-
Yeah.
That's kind of a gray area there.
It is.
Madam Mayor.
So
I'll
who-
make a recommendation. We go to option 1 and accept the lowest bid on this project for the 5,000 square meters,
Cubic meters, sure.
or cubic
Cubic
meters.
meters. Is there a seconder? Your
Yeah.
second.
But is
Thank-
that just for the 5,000?
That's
Yes,
well, that's
just
all
the-
it is.
just the
That's what
contract right
tender
now.
was
That's what
for,
the
was for
contract right
5,000.
now is for 5,000
It's got
cubic
nothing to
meters.
do with the other.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so did you want to speak to it? Go ahead.
So I'd like to ask, the volume of fill that we're looking for is adequate and will get us through, and that's what the tender was based on. The $12,000 would bring us up to what our budget was to do it, but we're not compelled to spend that in any way, shape, or form. And it might make good sense at this time if we're tendering out for our requirements. We should, in my opinion, should be viewing this as a budget savings right now. And
Yeah, when we
Yeah.
originally requested budget funding for this, we had guesstimated that the cost of excavation would be around $8 per cubic meter, judged on past contracts. We were surprised that the prices came in this low.
if we don't need it,
No, whether we do it this
Yeah.
year or next year or the
Yeah.
year after that, it doesn't.
I think the money should be viewed as a gain.
Right.
Yes, we've
Under
got a
Good competitive
savings.
tendering, at this point, and just an opinion subsequent to the motion.
Yep.
Did you want to speak?
Just so I understand, by not asking for the additional fill, are you suggesting that at some point we're going to need it and potentially have to pay more for it at that time?
Well, what we'll do over the next 4 years is we're going to continue to have these types of contracts out there in the world, because ultimately we need 25,000 cubic meters of fill. Right now we have 5. So, next year we'll ask for another 5, another 5, another 5. And we were asking it that way because we didn't want to spend,
More money.
to dig a really, really big hole right off the bat. And it's a more manageable contract, and we tend to get better pricing that way, as this indicates, because we got, like I said, much better pricing than we thought we would get. Traditionally, in the past, the prices have been from between $13 a cubic meter to $8, and so to get prices at $6.40 is unusual.
Okay. So the motion on the floor is to accept option number 1, and that would be for the 5,000 cubic
Correct.
meters only. All in favor? Thank you. Now, did you need a second motion then to, or not? Like,
Well, if
no?
council sees the value added, again, of, we haven't seen pricing of this nature, and we see there's an opportunity to save some money. The money is the $12,000 is part of the landfill very specific budget. If council feels they don't want to pursue the additional 1,000 square meters, then
We
we don't have to pursue it.
we could do it the next time. Councillor Campbell.
I think that's what it comes down to, and the purpose
Yeah.
of my question was, it sounds to me like council's concern about fairness outweighs the potential guesstimated savings that we'd be getting by going this route. So I would suggest that we just move forward with the one motion.
Okay.
And not go on to the other. Okay. We don't
Okay.
have to do another motion. We can leave it the way it is. And the next
right.
time we tender this, we'll get another 5,000, right? Yeah.
Yes, that's.
Are
what'll
we
happen.
planning to do this on a yearly basis,
Yes.
or every 2 years or 3 years, or how does that?
I think we had planned over the next 4 years to
Okay.
do this on an
And do it
annual
once a
basis.
year.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
And the reason we go to a smaller number is to attract the size of contractor.
Sure.
Our local contractors can bid on this type
Yeah.
of work. If we went with a really, really big contract,
Yes, would have to be.
their insurance and bonding and stuff like that, they wouldn't be able to bid on it.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you very much. The next item is boat safety, and this was an added item to our agenda. And I'll just speak to it first. I know that last week you saw in the paper that someone who had rented a Sea-Doo in Osoyoos, who doesn't have to have a boater's license, I think perhaps Councillor Campbell can help on this. They just have to fill in a form which says that they understand the rules and regulations. And of course, there was an accident, and a young woman died. The concern is, and I saw there was an article in the Osoyoos Times last week about this, I heard it on Global News recently, the differences for people who do take a boater's license and go through that process of understanding the rules and regulations, and somebody who comes in and rents for a short period of time. It doesn't seem to be quite fair. So the reason that I bring this up is that the other night I was talking to MP Richard Cannings, and I said that this had been talked about at our table, and we were kind of concerned about this because it is a federal regulation. And he said, please send me a letter. So that's why this came onto the agenda. Councillor Campbell.
Thank you, Member Kordoff. To me, it's less about fairness as it is about public safety, period. So to operate a motor vehicle, to operate a motorcycle requires licensing, and insurance industries measure risk and respond accordingly. When I look at jet skis and boats, specifically jet skis, you're essentially a motorcycle in water. The amount of potential damage by not having the proper training or understanding of the rules of the lake, we see what some of the result of that could be, and this isn't the first instance on this lake in recent years of this happening. I'm all for sending a letter or putting any pressure necessary to look at this, to be able to, with no experience in the water, be able to look through a sheet and put a bunch of check marks on it and be able to operate something that not only puts yourself in danger but puts everybody else in that lake in danger, I think requires a sober second thought on that being the process for rental equipment. So I'd be fully supportive of endorsing
Totally
this.
agree. Councillor Rhodes.
Thank you, Member Kordoff. Well, that event that happened on our lake was tragic for everybody involved in it, and if we can do something to minimize the impact or a reoccurrence of that in the future, I think we should step up to the plate and do what we can. One of the things that I've been kind of struggling with is the business licensing for that particular kind of business. And, just in the last 3 or 4 months, we've been looking at things like food trucks in our community, and we put a lot of energy into telling them where they can park them and how they could, how they look and how they operate and that kind of thing. And, that's a food truck, and it's, reasonably safe, we would think so. And this is another business entity in our community, and perhaps we can look at it through our business licensing process to bump up the requirements or the safety or whatever is necessary to, minimize the impact or help stop a reoccurrence of this kind of thing. And it is a suggestion. I don't know whether it's possible that we can do that, but I think it would be a worthwhile endeavor to maybe put some energy or a little bit into it. I know it's a lot different than the food truck. My point is, once again, we put a lot of time and effort into, locating those types of businesses in our community. And being a business owner in our community, you can restrict what people do and how they do it and how they act in our community and that type of thing. So perhaps we can look at it from that angle and start there. Other than that, I don't really have much in the way of ideas, but I think that would be a good start for us.
Yeah. Councillor Campbell.
So the other point I would make is that scrutiny and requirements plays a part in confidence as well. When there isn't a lot of requirement to operate something and do something, it would appear that there doesn't need to be, and that risk and safety is less of a concern. The more checks and balances, or the more training involved, and the more scrutiny you're under in order to do something, instills that the importance or the risk involved in that particular activity, and I think that's an important point too.
Yeah, totally. Councillor King.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to see us send a letter to the ministry to bring this to their attention, what their guidelines are around the vehicle itself, And also, I don't know if there's a way we can look at our bylaws, like Councillor Rhodes said, I think is also a great idea.
Business licensing, yeah. Yes.
Thank you, Mayor McCordoff. I'd really like to see us contact the owners of these establishments and send a little letter to them asking them how they see the safety and the liability issues and the operating conditions improved so that we do not continue to have these accidents. I'm sure they're as concerned as we are. They're in the business, and I think they might have some good ideas to correspond with the suggestion that Councillor Rhodes has, because it comes straight from the industry and would come straight to us, that maybe we can work with both the business license approving process as well as their operational processes.
Okay, so what we need is, yes, Councillor, Mr. Romanko. You could be a councillor one day.
No, thank you. Just speaking to the business licensing aspect, my sense is that we probably can't do that, but the best place to start always is to start with a legal opinion, and that's probably where we would start, is to ask whether or not we can regulate kind of or provide some type of stipulation as to what governs the operations of personal watercraft. And my assumption is that we're only dealing with personal watercraft, or are we also dealing with boat rentals?
Boat rentals
I
as
think,
well.
yeah.
Okay.
I think anything where they don't have to have a license to operate it, but
Watercraft.
watercraft,
You know, even in the case of like one of the operators is working off of our lands actually on a lease basis. I don't know if that has any additional impact on this. Certainly, we are able to control a lot of business through zoning regulations, and unfortunately, this doesn't fall under that particular category. So, even though we have actual town property into the water, so I'll just have to ask and see what the answer is.
So your suggestion is that we ask for a legal opinion on how to proceed on this, and I'm not sure how many businesses in town have, and it would be motorized watercraft. We're not talking about canoes or motorized crafts. And I think it's a good suggestion to perhaps contact those businesses and say, here's our concerns, here's our thoughts. How do you have any suggestions?
Well, and also if MP Canning is asking for a letter to support initiatives like that, I think that we should be doing that as well.
Yeah, I agree. He just when I mentioned it to him the other day about the concern about this, he said, please send me a letter and I'll try and get it, because it's a federal issue.
So do we need a motion?
Yeah, how do we deal with
I think
this?
it's best for council to provide a resolution that a letter be written to the appropriate minister of the federal department controlling watercraft regulations, asking for more due diligence in the regulation of rental personal watercraft and boats.
Motorized.
I won't repeat that, but I'll move what Romanko just said. In addition to that, also if we could look into get a legal opinion as well as far as the business license.
We could do that as a second motion to seek out a legal opinion as to the municipality's ability to regulate boat and personal watercraft rentals for their operating procedures.
Okay, so the first motion was to write a letter to MP Canning's. Yeah, and whoever is the federal fisheries or person, because they should, but he specifically we want it him notified as well.
Yeah, he would be copied on the letter.
Yeah, okay. So we have you
I'll
moved
second.
that, and
I'll second.
and Jim seconded it. All in favor? Thank you very much. Now the second motion is
I would move that we seek a legal opinion in looking how we could regulate motorized watercraft rentals for the interest of public safety.
right. Okay, are you seconding that, Councillor Rhodes? Good, thank you. Did you want to speak to it? Okay.
Thank you, Member Kordoff. So when you get issued a business license, and I'm intimately familiar with this, there's a set of criteria on there to make sure that what your business license is what you're doing inside of your business. But, you know, I hate to keep going back to that, and I see the frustration, but if I was to, open up and you're going to like this one, say a medical marijuana dispensary inside of my business, when my business license says something else, there's consequences. So is it within our right to investigate that in these circumstances? I know I'm embellishing a little bit.
Well, I can put a better. I think I can find a closer example. In your business, would you want the town to regulate the operator certification of somebody that you rented a backhoe to or a bobcat to?
I think you should.
Well, so my business is different because I educate all of my users of my equipment.
But how do you know that the person you're renting to knows how to operate that equipment?
I was trying to be a little bit, I'll be more specific. In this particular case, are we sure that they're licensed to do what they're doing?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
You're talking about the rental agencies that rent out.
I see. You mean?
Yeah, if I say I'm going to open up an operation down there to, like Councillor Campbell has over at, he doesn't have it himself, but how do we know that they can do that efficiently and that they're the right, just because they have a business license, does that mean they can deal with whatever they want, or how do we?
I don't think we don't have the ability to question whether somebody opens up if they're going to open up a rental business, what their qualifications are. Somebody can buy some tools and open up a business to rent tools. Somebody can buy personal watercraft and have a watercraft business. We don't regulate restaurants to say
no, but
Interior Health does. So that's the difference.
Let me differentiate.
Yeah.
So when we talk about a restaurant, so anybody that walks into that restaurant has an expectation. When you rent a vehicle to put on the water or a watercraft that's on the water, the public safety is at risk if there's not strong regulations and training. And those people aren't. They're licensed. They own their stuff, and a renter with no experience can put them in danger. I see a difference there.
Yeah,
when I say the public safety, it's
the biggest.
They're not They have no choice that people can go rent these with very little training, but they're out on the water with training in their own watercrafts. They're at risk if proper training regulations aren't in place to the people that rent them out.
Yeah,
I know what you're saying, but it goes back to what municipal authority is.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it's important that we get
legal opinion
to say what is our authority. It's because
awesome circle.
Because again, what is the ability of a municipality to regulate a business?
Yeah.
Whether it be, as I go back to my other example, whether in the case of a car rental, it's easy. The public safety is protected by a driver's license, and maybe in the construction industry there are operators certified, to drive bobcats and things like that, but. In some situations, operations may not ask for that type of credential.
Yeah,
and I think there's a difference because the majority of businesses that we license are businesses that a patron would have to walk into and choose to do business with. When I think of the difference to me is, and why I think it'd be interesting to get a legal opinion is, I think you're right. Are we overstepping as a municipality? By adding regulation where there isn't, but I guess my argument is, and why I'm curious is, people that are affected by this, it's not by choice. And so when we talk about, as a municipality, what our role is, public safety is certainly part of it. So I think it's worth asking for that opinion to understand whether we do have some say in what that looks like. And that would be my justification as to why, as our responsibilities for the public safety as a whole.
To ask for a legal opinion.
Correct.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So did we have that moved and seconded?
I moved
Yes.
it.
Did you get that, Mrs. Hilson? Okay. All right. All in favor of asking for a legal opinion? Thank you. That's carried. Okay. Next on the list is the gyro opening, and Mr. Romanko.
Thank you. Just reviewing my report from this morning, that a significant amount of work has been done to complete phases A and B of Gyro Park. Included in this work was the construction of a new washroom concession building, creation of the plaza area, and the walkways to the beach. Funding of these projects included general revenues, parks development cost charges, and the Resort Municipality Initiative RMI funding. The most significant amount of funds were contributed by the RMI funds. A significant amount of work also has been completed and resulted on the reconstruction of 74th Avenue from 89th Street to Highway 3. This project was funded through Community Works funds and development cost charges. It is important to celebrate community successes through community events that function as grand openings of major facilities. Council was approached in spring with a recommendation to hold a community celebration of the Gyro Park facility. However, timing and workload didn't allow for a spring or summer opening. Council recommended an early fall event in midweek to ensure that it was more of a community celebration. If there is direction to plan this event, there will be a need for a small formal program that outlines the history of the project and recognizes contributions to the project. Significant invitations of dignitaries may include the Minister of Jobs, Shirley Bond, Minister of Jobs, Tourism and Skills Training, MLA Linda Larson, and past council members that were involved in the initial stage of development. Consideration can also be given to include a celebration at the same time of the completion of 74th Avenue construction with the recognition of Community Works Fund gas tax funding that provided for this development. Activities could include a small dedication program, music in the park, community picnic with council members serving food and beverages. So in terms of implications, community...
Public safety thing again.
Sorry. With food safe. The mayor has food safe.
I have it.
In terms of community celebrations of successful projects, assist in developing community spirit. Organizationally, community services would be asked to assist in the organization of the events, location, and the administration staff will assist with organizing the dedication events, invitations, and press releases. Budget funds for this event are within our current budget. Significant dates, Council is asked to find a date in the weeks of September 12th or 19th, or a date in early October. So 3 options for consideration. 1, to proceed with a park opening ceremony on an identified date, and 2, not to proceed with an opening celebration, and 3, ask for additional information.
Thank you very much. Councillor Campbell.
I'll move option number 1.
And I don't have it in front of me that we
That-
choose a date.
And
Okay.
Go ahead with an opening, but you've got to choose a date.
I think it's a really good idea. Gyro is a real jewel. We've had so many things completed down there. It's being enjoyed by all kinds of groups, and I think that sometime in mid-September is probably a good time.
Or on the
I'll second
14th,
that.
of Wednesday.
So, as part of the motion, I was going to suggest the date of September 14th, which is a Wednesday.
Yeah.
Wednesday,
That
September
works.
14th. Would that work, Mr. Romanko?
As far as I know.
Yeah.
Okay. And do we have a suggested time? Are we thinking, we're not thinking lunch, we're thinking...
Yeah, we're thinking in the evening.
Yeah. Okay.
Late afternoon, early evening, 5:36.
So say 5:30 to 7:30, something like
Yeah,
that?
something like that, yep.
All right. Councillor Rhodes?
Thank you, Mayor McCordle. So in addition to seconding that motion, I would like to also ask both staff and council's blessing to invite the minister responsible for RMI funding. I'm not sure if they would be interested in attending, but I think it's important, extremely important, that we invite them with the hopes that they will participate in it. We have to realize that if that RMI funding is non-existent, then we would be looking at that facility the way it was, 8 or 10 years ago. And in addition, I think MLA Larson should be invited and that kind of thing. This is such a big ticket item for Osoyoos and something that's been so well accepted by our community. And like you indicated earlier, we need to celebrate the success down there with inviting as many of those individuals as we can. And perhaps at the top of the list, the community needs to be invited as well because of their
Absolutely.
support and that kind of thing. And so, as long as we can advertise appropriately that people in our community are invited, I think it would be essential for us to fill in all those spots if we can.
I totally agree. So how would you like to deal with this, Mr. Romanko? Would you like to have a committee set up? Would you like somebody? Councillor Campbell has volunteered, seeing as he has.
We'll take the event planner knowledge of Councillor Campo and probably put it together with members of our community services staff to plan the event.
Okay.
And then the administration in the office here will do the appropriate invitations and that.
Contact people.
Yeah, and advertising.
Perfect. I think that's a really good idea. So did you need a motion?
I should have a motion that I thought there was one
There's
being
a motion.
Oh,
on
pardon
the
me.
table.
There's a motion. It's been seconded. Did you get that, Mrs. Hilson? Okay. All in favor? Thank you very much. I think this is a good thing. Okay. Next is we don't have any notices of motion, do we? No. I think the next is the cash requirements, right? Okay, cash requirements, general accounts of $4,718,338.58. Arena accounts, $4,477.81, and those would both be passed by consensus. And net payroll accounts of $169,829.72, and that would be received for information. Now, we need the...
Just as a note,
go ahead.
you'll
Can you
notice
tell us why the $4 million there?
I'm going to tell you why it's $4.7 million in terms of general cash requirements. That includes our transfer payments for education and regional district and hospital and all those, all the line items that you see on your tax bill. Only one of them goes to the town, and all the rest of the funds go out of the community.
Thank you. Okay, and next is the summary of building permits, and we have 3 items for the month of July, and that would be a single-family dwelling, 400,000, single-family dwelling and garage for 392,000, and a garage for 20,000. So total for the month is 812,935, and total to date 3,488,000. Total to date last year was 3,798,000. So we're pretty close to what we had for last year. Do we need to have a motion to accept that? And did we need to? No, not for the cash requirements, just the building. Okay, thank you. Councillor Youngberg, Councillor Rhodes, all in favor. Thank you. And the next is the bylaw enforcement. And it's kind of interesting, the report from our bylaw, that we had to the end of July. Traffic 35, comms. What's comms?
Complaints.
Pardon?
Complaints.
Oh, complaints. 8, animal, 14, admin, 8.5, and I'm assuming this is the number of hours. Am I correct? Or is it the number of offenses? 8.5, how does that come in? That's why I'm wondering.
Half a complaint. They were kind of ticked off about it.
Pound 31, noise 1.5, property 9.5, parks 39, miscellaneous 2.5. Boat trailer 11.5. So infractions, traffic was 20, animal 19, property 39, noise 3. And interesting that Mrs. Marshall has said that she's had a lot of dogs down at the beach, down at Gyro, a lot of dogs at large, and right after the fireworks. Several of them, I guess, were scared, and I guess her job was to go and round them all up. 39 unsightly properties for the month of July, 29 for a second inspection, and 5 new ones. 3 were completed and 2 were sent to tender to be cleaned. And bylaw has noticed that for the month of July there are fewer infractions with the transients. RCMP wrote 1 expulsion letter to a resident of Osoyoos. There were 3 reports of illegal camping. Bylaw also has had more infractions with drinking in the parks and dogs off leash in the parks, along with more calls with dogs at large. Unsightly properties have increased for the month compared to June due to rain and nice weather. So for the month of August, bylaw will continue to maintain the safety of the town and the parks for everyone to enjoy. So we appreciate the work that they're doing. Certainly down there, they're being very attentive to things in the park, and whenever I'm down there, I can always find one of them around. So all of the stats are here if anybody is interested in having a look at them all. Next. Sorry, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Is there any opportunity to get a comparison from last year, say for the 7 months? Because I'm just wondering if we got more alcohol abuse here in town. I mean, it shows 464 for 1 month. Seems 15 a day is kind of a lot.
Well, we could check. I don't know if we have the statistics, if we retain them at all. This just shows a number of contacts relative to that they made with alcohol.
You would be comparing contacts and contacts.
Yeah.
I'm just curious if it's the same law enforcement from last year.
Yeah.
If not, we couldn't do it. But start next year, it'd be nice to see a comparison to see if numbers are up or down.
Does council want to see that comparison?
We could, that might be a good idea. We could ask. Interesting that the alcohol complaints, the 3 days on the weekends, if you notice those on the chart, they're much higher than the days during the week, eh? But yeah, it's a good point, Councillor King, that, we just wonder where we're at with this is if we could ask Mrs. Marshall if they're, how it compares to last year.
Okay, we can see if there's, make note of that as an action request, if we retain the statistics from last year.
Okay.
And we'll see.
And we may not, because we've had statistics for this year, but in quite detail. But
it varies from month to month based on the weather.
I know.
How many weeks in a year, in a month, sorry, how many as well makes a difference.
Weekends, you're quite right.
Just in general terms.
Yeah, activities, yeah. But July would be a good one to look at, because we've always got July 1st, which, increases the number of people down there. So I'm sure that they're super busy in the month of July. Okay, thank you. Do we need a motion to receive this? Rhodes Campbell. All in favor? Thank you. Did we need to do something? We just received. Oh, do we need a motion for the building permit too? No, we already did. Okay, good. So we're now on to committee reports. Do we have any such thing? No. And the CAO report.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a few of the activities since my last report that we've been involved in, starting in community services. The Cactus Kids Summer Program is winding down after a very successful year, or a successful summer. The Sun Bowl Arena has been very busy with a number of summer camps, including the Ringette, the BC Hockey Officiating Camp, and also currently the Figure Skating Camp. The Fall Leisure Guide is being prepared and will be distributed the week of September 6th. There's been a number of special events, including Family Splash at Splash Park, July 13th and August 17th. There'll be another one. Training for occupational health and safety included confined space and ammonia exposure control. And we've hired a new relief staff at the Sun Bowl Arena, Paulo Sociedad. In terms of corporate services, posting for 2 part-time waste scale clerks has been completed. We've hired a new corporate services admin support. Congratulations to Amy Robinson, who will start on September 6th. Working on various policies, including vehicles, policy development, information checks. The Deputy Corporate Officer attended the Municipal Administration Training Institute at UBCO last week. This is an intensive training on all aspects of local government services. In terms of freedom of information, 1 large request has been received. Finance, we've moved to electronic pay stubs, so trying to eliminate as much paper as possible. So that's had a few bugs that we've worked out, and also continue to work on information for the business planning, council business planning. Planning and development, negotiations for the comprehensive development rezoning is well advanced for 4217 Lakeshore Drive. That's the old par 3 golf course property. A rezoning application will be submitted soon to council. In terms of public works, as per the recommendations of the Traffic Safety Committee, a minor traffic mirror was installed at the intersection of Osprey Place and 62nd Avenue. Street sweeping throughout the town has occurred. Repaired vandalism damage to irrigation system at Legion and Cottonwood Parks, and then removed a potentially dangerous debris from the lake. Just as a side, we also had another traffic safety meeting last week and reviewed. We had a number of input from members of the community relative to safety concerns around town. Those were reviewed. Many of them are enforcement types of action, so they were passed on to Councillor Sherman, who not Councillor Sherman, Constable Sherman, who was there. Anything that we can, when there's actually physically we can do something, we'll be taking a look at that and reviewing it. Also, the next meeting we'll have a member of the Department of the Ministry of Transportation to speak to the highway issues and work on those. In terms of myself, just an update on the Richter property development. The plans are to tender out the engineering this week. We're working on the subdivision, and Wren Place improvements will be tendered separately, so we'll have 2 tenders going out, one on the subdivision and one on Wren Place. We're upgrading of grading of the property will occur in mid-September, and survey and registration of the subdivision by the end of the month. So we'll be working closely with developer Hart Beckendall very shortly, and in terms of he's in the process of getting house design. So we'll be working with him very closely soon. Continue to work on the council business planning session. Received a call last week from the Canada 150 program on our trail grant, and they asked some questions of clarification. So that's positive, I think. They were very happy that it's something that has been tendered already, and it's shovel ready, it's ready to go. So we're just hoping that we'll be able to be successful in that area, and also submitted the UBCM ministerial meeting requests.
Good.
That's my report.
Thank you very much. So could we please have a motion to accept the CAO's report? Thank you. Youngberg King, all in favor? Thank you. And now to council reports. Councillor Rhodes, you're first.
I got nothing.
He's been too busy. Councillor Campbell.
Thank you, Mayor McCordoff. I don't have a lot. I just wanted to say that I don't know if I'm paying more attention this year or this summer, or if it's if there's been a change. But I'm just seeing a lot more activity happening in the community, from more music in the park, to what the Arts Council is doing, to the street dances, to the outdoor movies, to the piano in the park, and just seems to be a lot more going on for especially local families this summer than usual. And I know most of it's driven by volunteer groups, and I think that's amazing. I just wanted to point that out, and it's much appreciated for the amount of work that goes into making these things happen, and for our residents to enjoy.
Thank you. And I've had several people say to me, just on the streets, gee, this is a great place to be. There's so many things on, so many things to be offered. So I think not only residents but visitors are noticing it as well. Councillor King.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I guess I'd just like to make the comment about the lake being open for fishing the last couple of weeks. I understand it was great fishing. Most people out there were getting their quota of 2 a day. I had the pleasure of tasting one of the fish, and they were excellent. So thank you very much for the people that make that happen. I'd also just like to bring forward tonight the movie night at the elementary school. I think it opens about 7. The movie will start about 8:30 for family and children. Hope to see a big crowd out there tonight. And then again this Saturday, Desert Park Race Day. I think the gates open around 1 o'clock, and really thanks to the committee that make that happen.
Thank you. Councillor Youngberg.
Thank you, Mayor McCordoff. Just a little thing about the our Rio action on television and the Olympics. I just wanted to bring to the attention of everybody that number 7 on our basketball team is from Oliver.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Women or men?
Women.
Oh, good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Women are cleaning up all.
I know they are. The men got one.
I know. Yeah.
No, they got one.
They just got one. Yeah.
Anyways, and then little girl in the rowboat rowing, I think she's 8-man rowing, and she's a friend of my sister's in Smithers.
Oh, nice.
So her parents are friends of my family. So that's really very inspiring when you know people that are in the Olympics, I think. The races at Desert Park, as Councillor King has just said, we are on target with everything we're doing up there. I just hope all of you attend, and we have just a great day of racing. We have a large amount of horses. We have 6 races, and there's 8 horses in one race, so it should be exciting.
Good. Thank you. So I've attended a couple of things over the last couple of weeks. One is Music in the Park, and I just want to say what a great turnout there have been. I've been to most of the Music in the Parks, which is on Friday nights, and I think last week we counted 350 people there, so that's really good. And this week it is it Highway 97, I think? It's a local group anyway, very well respected and enjoy, and I'm pretty sure that's what it is. It's on our website if you're not sure. And next week, which is the last one, I think it's the 26th, it's the Naden Band from Esquimalt, and all 35 of them are coming. Originally, it was only 5 that were going to come, and all 35. They were fantastic last year. Mm-hmm. So I really thank the 3 amigos, Janice and Alan and Rusty, for organizing this. They do a terrific job, and we really appreciate it. So that's one of the music things that we're on. I know that Alan has also done several things at JoJo's Cafe, and that has been very successful. I know Councillor Campbell has had several musical events over at Spirit Ridge at the campground that have been very well advertised, and I understand if we had a boat going across to pick me up, I'd go. But anyway. And then I was also last weekend at Romancing the Desert. Councillor Youngberg was there as well. And that's a terrific event. I think it's the 16th annual that they've been doing this, and they were celebrating 25 years of having the Desert Center. the Desert Society, organized. So that was very good. And it was a very nice night, wonderful food, and I even won some wine, so that was even better. Street dances. We had 2 of them. One was last weekend when there were so many things on that people say, well, why are there so many things on in one weekend? I say, aren't you lucky? You have a choice, and you can probably go to 2 or 3 things. So, we're very lucky here. Street dances were handled this year by Clint Hawes, and he did a phenomenal job. I was the first one, but I wasn't at the last one because I was at Romancing, so I couldn't be at both. He has he's got lots of energy. He has great prizes. The kids are all there, their parents, their grandparents. It's the band shell is very well used this year on many occasions. And I was also at Mount Cobo at the Star Party about a week or so ago, and it was quite fascinating. They only do that when there is a sliver of a moon, so that there's very, very little light, and the road up is a bit wild, although it's been cleaned up a little bit since the forest fire last year, but it's quite it's gravel and it's straight up. It probably takes from the visitor center, it takes an hour to get up there and an hour to get back. So it's not that far, but that's what it takes. Anyway, it was very nicely done. There were probably 100 people up there camping. They don't camp up there, except for this one week when the Star Party's on. They all had telescopes that they had set up, and they allowed some of us to have a look at them. I had a perfect view of Saturn with all the rings around it. The Mars was visible, Venus was visible. Yeah. It was really quite an interesting event, and I hadn't been up there for a long time, so that was great. So just don't forget that there's lots of other activities on. We're happy to have all of the visitors in town because this is the last push before school starts. And so for the next couple of weeks, there's plenty of things on that you can have a look at. Go online, look in the paper, go on Osoyoos Daily News, Oliver Daily News. All of those things are very good at keeping us up to date on what's going on in town. So enjoy the rest of the summer, and it is summertime now for sure. And we're sure glad we've got through this because it was exactly a year ago today that the wildfire went through, and that the last couple of weeks of August last year was pretty nasty. So we haven't had to deal with that problem this year, and we're certainly grateful. Yeah, knock on wood, right, for sure. Okay, thank you very much, everybody, and could we have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Thank you, Councillor King, Councillor Youngberg, all in favor. And we do have another meeting which starts in 15 minutes.